The people that are the best in the world still focus on the fundamentals. Exercise is very similar. You will get better results focusing on the fundamentals and getting really good at them. Welcome to Only the Greatest Podcast. If you're feeling stuck and unsure what to do next in your fitness journey, we might be what you're looking for. My name is Philip. I own and operate OTG Fitness, which is a private personal training gym on the south side of Houston in Webster. I do this podcast every week with my best friend, Daryl. We've been friends since third grade and working out together ever since. Also joining us today will be Sean. He's the one that makes this podcast not only sound great, but look good as well. Our goal here is to help Houston make its way up the ladder of health and fitness. So if you're in the Houston area and ready to become the greatest version of yourself, be sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Back to you guys today with another solo episode. It is the beginning of 2024, the end of January, so we're about a month into the new year at this point as we're recording this. And this is about the time that people start thinking about personal training. At the very beginning of the year, you might think we would be pretty busy, but actually just like regular gym memberships are very popular at the very beginning of the year. But personal training actually isn't. I think a lot of times at the beginning of the year when it first starts, you know, people want to try to do it on their own. They want to do it in a way that they feel is best. And then maybe February or even March is when us as personal trainers actually get to get busier. You know, our schedule start to get a little more full. So I figured it'd be a good time to come on here and discuss a little bit about the philosophy that we follow as personal trainers at OTG Fitness. What do we do? How exactly do we do it? Why do we believe in it? Things like that. So I'm going to break this down. I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible. We're mostly looking at our program as a whole, why we do it, why we think it works, why we believe in it, why it's what we do for our clients, what I do for myself, why it's effective, and things like that. So if you've been searching out OTG Fitness, thinking about personal training, and you're like, well, what do they do that's different from someone else? How does the workouts look? That's what we're talking about right now. I'm going to break it down into two major pieces. The first one is going to be the structure of the program as a whole, like what exactly we do as a whole, like big picture. And then I'm also going to talk about what we do within each workout, kind of two different parts here. There's a lot to break down, and I want to try to keep it simple, as I mentioned. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is a big, I guess you call it 30,000 foot view of the program and what exactly we do when it comes to training. What does the workouts look like? What's our belief system? And that is, we believe in full body strength training. And at the end of the day, strength training should be the foundation of your exercise, quote unquote, career, right? So when it comes to exercising, what is the most effective, the most bang for your buck? That is going to be strength training, resistance training, using weights, using body weight, using bands, things like that. So that's what we do. A lot of our clients do other stuff also. They run, they do yoga, spin, different types of cardio, different classes. But at the end of the day, the strength training or resistance part of your exercise routine really is the fundamental piece, and everything else is built out around that. So that's why we focus on strength training. And we do take a full body approach, which we're going to talk about more here in a few minutes. But keeping it big picture for now, strength training. And we also preach frequency over duration. So to make the math easy, we much more recommend 30 minutes 4 times a week than twice a week for an hour. At the end of the day, it's still 2 hours in total, but that frequency will help build the habit, right? And building that habit and staying consistent over a long period of time is what's going to bring you the most results. Just because you can do something for a period of time And maybe you do it perfect. Let's talk about that. Maybe you come up with the most perfect thing, the perfect diet, the perfect workout routine, and you do it for 2 months, and then you stop. Well, if I gave you something that was even like a 6 or a 7 out of 10, and I'm not saying that we do. What we do is a 10 out of 10. We do our best with every single client that walks through our door to give them a 10 out of 10 in every single aspect. But what I'm just trying to make this example, even if I give you something that was a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10, but you did it for 2 years instead of 2 months, the reality of the situation is you're still going to make more progress than if you did the perfect thing for only 2 months. And so that habit formation of you doing it for a long period of time. And what I've noticed, it's a lot easier to squeeze in 30 minutes than an hour and a half. You know, a lot of times be like, I can't go to the gym because I don't have time. Well, that's not a legitimate excuse. There is time. We just got to figure out how to get it in there. And I know everyone's busy, but if you're listening to this and you feel like you need an hour in the gym, well, you still got to factor in 10 minutes to drive there, 15 minutes to drive home because the traffic's worse. You know, now I'm looking at an hour and a half and getting ready and all that stuff. You know, it gets very difficult. So what we've noticed is people can be more consistent with shorter time frames, right? Because it's easier to squeeze in. It's easier to squeeze into your day and be consistent with it over a long period of time. So that's why we preach frequency over duration, because, well, really 2 reasons. The psychological reason is because it helps you build the habit. And then the physical reason, and this kind of goes along with why we do full body. The most recent science tells us that how much you do in a day is not as important as how much you do in a week. So what we like to do is spread out that volume over the week. Instead of doing chest today, back tomorrow, legs on Wednesday, shoulders on Thursday, arms on Friday, we do a little bit of everything all week. We spread it out, the full body strength training approach, because the most recent data is telling us that roughly somewhere, and this has to do with a lot of things, your recovery abilities, a lot of it's genetic, how well you sleep, how much you eat, all those things matter when it comes to recovery. But somewhere between 10 and 20 sets per body part per week is going to get most people the most results. And if you do all of those in one day, or you spread them out throughout the week, it doesn't really seem to matter all that much. And what I've noticed is people recover better. You're not going to be so crazy sore tomorrow. If you're just getting started and you do all legs, you're barely going to walk tomorrow. You're not going to like working out. I want you to enjoy exercise. You should look forward to going to the gym. It's going to be fun. I'm going to make progress. I'm going to do something good for myself. And that's how I want people to feel all the time. I don't want you to be like, I got to go back to the gym. You know, I went the other day and geez, I could barely move the next day. And that happens often because people do too much volume on any one body part in one day. And that soreness, that accumulation of fatigue in one body part often leads to them being so sore the next day. You know, they don't enjoy the workout anymore. And that's a problem. I want you to enjoy the work. Every time you work out, every time you eat also, it's a time to do something good for yourself, to do something to make you feel good, to make you to be able to do something to perform better. And that's what we want. And then my last point here, when it comes to the full body aspect versus, you know, breaking down into body parts, unfortunately, life happens. Let's say you have a plan to work out 3 days a week. Well, what if for 2 or 3 weeks in a row, something happens every leg day? I just didn't do legs for 3 weeks. That's a problem. We need to evenly distribute the volume across your entire body. And by taking a full body approach, if your game plan is 3 days a week and you miss one of them, well, maybe you didn't get the total volume you wanted, but we got an even distribution amongst what you did do. And that's very important because, as I mentioned earlier, if we want our body to grow, we want to get stronger, we want to maximize results, we want to do that somewhere that 10 to 20 kind of set range per body part, if at all possible. And if you miss a certain body part because you missed a certain day for multiple weeks in a row, we completely missed out. And we don't want to accumulate imbalances. You want your body to be balanced, top to bottom, front to back, left to right. The only way that we do that is distribute the volume evenly. And if you have a weak point, awesome, focus on that weak point, do a little extra there. But in general, that full body approach allows you to, even if you miss a day, we can still evenly distribute and get all of our exercises, all of our core fundamentals in each and every workout, so we never have to miss. And speaking of that, I think that's kind of a good transition into the second piece of this whole thing, which is the workout itself. I know I mentioned full body, but what exactly does that look like inside of each workout? Well, here's what it looks like. We do supersets, and we superset opposing body parts. That's nice because remember we talked about frequency over duration. If I don't want to spend an hour and a half in the gym, I need to get the most bang for my buck in the 40, 45 minutes that I am there. And the way that we do that is maximizing the time we're using if we're being as efficient as possible. So I'm going to do a superset is basically 2 exercises back to back with very little to no rest. And we superset an upper body exercise with a lower body exercise. If the upper body exercise is a push, the lower body exercise will be a pull. One will be arms, one will be legs, obviously. And that allows the arms to recover while I'm doing the legs. And we can just kind of bounce back and forth. That allows me to maximize my time in the gym. And obviously, before we do that, I forgot to mention, we're going to do a warm-up, right? So every time you come to the gym, you're going to have a nice warm-up that's going to get the whole body ready, primed up, ready to go before you hit the weights and hit them hard, because that's what we talked about earlier, right? Strength training. And each of those supersets that I mentioned after the warm-up are going to be compound movements. So we're talking about your bench presses. We're talking about your squats, your lunges, your deadlifts, your rows, your lat pull downs, the things that are tangible, measurable, compound exercises that get you stronger, moving better. And that's what we want, causing hypertrophy, which is the breakdown and building of muscle mass, getting you stronger, right? So we warm up, we do supersets of compound movements. Somewhere in the middle also, we do believe that getting that heart rate elevated is important. So right in the middle of your workout, you do something, what we call a metabolic. And all that means is something to kind of get your entire body moving. It's usually going to be something kind of full body. It's going to be something to get the heart rate elevated. And we like to kind of throw that right into the middle. It's a nice mix-up, a nice spin-up. Makes you really feel like you're doing something, getting that sweat broken. So we're lifting heavy. We're getting the heart rate up. After we do that, we slow down just a little bit, getting some isolation. Isolation is just like it sounds. It's isolating one muscle group, one joint moving at a time. So only the elbow joints. I'm doing like biceps, triceps, side raises for the side laterals, right? Calf raises, something that's isolating a body part. Now, those are not as effective as the compound movements that we did earlier in the workout. And the reason we did them earlier in the workout is because that's when you're going to have the most energy. Right after that warm up, that's when you're going to have the most energy. So we want to do the most effective exercises, which are those compound movements. And we're going to do an upper body and a lower body. After we do a couple sets of those, we get that metabolic piece. Then we go to the isolation. Isolation follows the compound because I want you spending most of your effort on the compound. The isolation as well as an ab piece. Everybody wants some abs, right? But we're doing, more than just show ab stuff, right? We're talking about stability through the midsection, the core development, things that are going to keep you safe, keep that low back safe, good form, good posture, all things like that. And at this point, we're about, 3/4 or so of the way through the workout. When you're done with that, I need to mention too, each one we do roughly 3 sets. Depending on the person, sometimes 2 is enough. We talked about volume earlier, right? Number of sets. we talked about the volume. Some people do 2 sets, some do 3, some do 4. That's why it's personal training, right? Everyone's a little bit different. The exercises you do might be different than someone else. The number of sets you do might be different than someone else. You know, we're adapting this program, even though the program has a 30,000 foot view that keeps everyone on the same page, it's still adaptable to each person. And that's why personal training is so valuable compared to going to like a class setting or something like that, right? And then at the end of the workout, we are going to do a HIIT finisher, HIIT, H-I-I-T, high intensity interval training. We're going to finish up the workout with that. And that's going to, you know, obviously finishing strong, getting that heart rate really elevated. But that, once again, just to reiterate, that comes after the strength portion. So every time you come in, warm up, strength, a little bit of metabolic in the middle, isolation and core towards the end. And then at the very end, we're doing the HIIT style finisher. That's going to be something like with the bike sprints, rower sprints, sled pushes, something to really get that heart rate up, make you feel like you really worked hard today, finishing strong. And when you're done with that, you're done. So we do the compound first, and then we do that. One other thing that I did forget to mention earlier, kind of in the beginning, was the rep ranges. People often ask, like, what's the best rep range? You know, we go through phases, right? So we have a strength phase, which is lower repetitions, 5, a maximum of 10. And then we go through a hypertrophy phase, which is more like 10 reps up to 15. And then also we do have what we call a variety phase, which is going to be anywhere between that 5 and 15. It doesn't really matter. That phase is really just more to, mix up, show you something different so you don't get bored doing the same exercises all the time. Because it is a funny balance between how many different exercises to do, because you always have to remember that exercises and lifting weights especially is a skill that is developed over time. So muscle confusion, quote unquote, is not a real thing. That does not exist. You will get better results doing the same movements, but getting better at them, lifting more weights, doing more repetitions of the same movement, enhancing your technique, and doing it with better form over time will get you better results than muscle confusion, as some people put it. Because with muscle confusion, you never actually get good at anything. When I was a kid, one of my baseball coaches, and I tell this story all the time at the gym. When I was a kid, one of my baseball coaches had a baseball card of Rafael Palmeiro, one of the greatest left-handed hitters to ever play the game of baseball. And on this baseball card, Rafael Palmeiro was hitting off of a tee. And any time that we complained about hitting off a tee, he would pull out this baseball card and he would show it to us and be like, the best players in the world still hit off a tee. Why is that important? Because the people that are the best in the world still focus on the fundamentals. Exercise is very similar. You will get better results focusing on the fundamentals and getting really good at them versus trying to do all this crazy stuff all the time. So we have those 3 phases. They last a period of time where you'll go through them, see your progress through that exercise. Then we'll change the exercise, see the progress through that one. And we do that in 3 different ways. And the rep ranges vary the entire time. So I think that's something that's important to keep track of as well, right? So I hope that makes sense. Obviously, if you guys have any questions, if you're seeking out personal training, we are here to help you. OTG Fitness. We're located currently in Webster on the south side of Houston. We are looking to expand. As you heard at the beginning of this podcast, we're trying to help Houston make its way up the ladder of health and fitness. We want to be the go-to source of personal training in the city of Houston. And we believe that what I just explained to you is the way to do that. This is the physical side. There's way more to our philosophy than just this, but I think it's an important part to talk about. Maybe I'll do another episode in the future about more like the psychological side, our approach, our holistic approach, and things like that. I did talk a little bit about why we believe frequency is more important than duration from a psychology perspective, with creating the habits. I think that's very important. But yeah, so today we're just talking about like the programming. So if you're seeking out personal training and you're not sure what type of exercises to do, what I just laid out here is, in my opinion, the base of any exercise program. Everything else you do is built around this. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out. You can give us a call. You can come by the gym, otgfitness.com. Just put your info in there. It'll probably be me giving you a call. But yeah, leave a comment. We really appreciate reviews. We want to grow this thing and just help as many people as possible. So if you have questions, feel free to leave a comment, shoot me a message. You can text us actually via the website. There's a little widget on there where you can shoot us a text message via the website. It's just otgfitness.com. And yeah, guys, I'll see you next time.